I managed to resolve the trouble and was called to the president's office.
Don't interfere if you can't take responsibility. We don't need a 67-year-old geezer. John, you're fired.
Waiting for me were the harsh words of the second-generation president. The trouble was caused by a lack of coordination between departments due to a shortage of experienced personnel. It wasn't my fault.
This delay in delivery happened because of your lack of guidance, John. We almost lost a major client. How do you plan to take responsibility for this?
I had intended to devote my remaining efforts to this company, but if the second-generation president deemed me unnecessary, there was nothing I could do. I understand. If you won't listen to my side, then I will resign.
Finally, we got rid of the old geezer.
As I left the president's office, I heard the second-generation president's laughter. My name is John Mayer, a 67-year-old company employee. I work for a machinery manufacturing company. When I joined this company, it was just after the 1970s recession's wounds had begun to heal. Inflation caused by the sharp rise in oil prices led to a rapid appreciation of the dollar. It was a time when the economy as a whole was showing signs of recovery. The company that was founded back then is this machinery manufacturing company. Machinery manufacturing refers to the equipment used for incorporation or installation in various machines and is essential for making industrial machines. I was unsure which company to work for, but it was Mark, my upperclassman in college, who picked me up. Mark was the president of a company, and in the first year of its establishment, the company consisted of just me and the president. Back then, people used to mock us, saying it was like playing house. The shock of the recession was still lingering, and the company's performance wasn't improving. Still, we worked hard, doing door-to-door sales and rushing to places whenever we heard of new technology, gradually expanding our transactions. While many companies were being absorbed by large corporations during the economic growth, it might have been pure luck that this company survived. But maybe because we worked diligently without taking breaks for holidays, we started to gain more clients. As our client base grew, the number of full-time employees increased, and before we knew it, the company that started with just 2 people had grown to over 500. Now, I work as the factory manager and an executive officer. It's embarrassing to say it myself, but my colleagues and subordinates trust me. However, recently, the number of orders our company receives has gradually declined. Since the entire domestic industry is on a downward trend, it might be inevitable. I discussed with the president that we need to consider making products other than machinery. The president himself energetically went around the country to open new sales channels, but he collapsed during one of those trips. When I rushed to the hospital, it seemed that the headaches he had been feeling recently were symptoms of a stroke. Fortunately, it was discovered early, so his life wasn't in danger, but he needed long-term hospitalization. Moreover, even after being discharged, it would be difficult for him to return to work as before. I was shocked, but more than that, I felt a stronger sense of responsibility to keep the company running. While I was working hard to fill the gap left by the president, I received news that the second-generation president had been decided. The second-generation president is the president's eldest son, Thomas Smith. Thomas had wanted to know about different worlds, so he worked for a foreign-owned automotive manufacturer for about 10 years. The last time I saw Thomas was when he was still in elementary school, but I was sure he had grown up to be someone who worked passionately, just like his father. I was looking forward to supporting the second-generation president. However, the second-generation president issued a shocking order as soon as he took office. He changed the positions of the middle-aged and older employees who had held important roles, effectively sidelining them, and instead, he promoted employees in their 30s and younger to the vacant positions one after another. The second-generation president's reasoning was to create a company centered around young, energetic employees who prioritize ability, making the company more open and transparent. Naturally, I opposed this. While it's important to evaluate abilities, this approach was too extreme. The second-generation president had just taken office and didn't know much about our company's operations or the nature of our employees. Experienced employees, ignored and sidelined, were naturally angry. On the other hand, the young employees suddenly entrusted with important roles were just confused. Such an approach would not allow the company to function smoothly. I protested to the second-generation president, but my opinion was not accepted. Instead, I was also demoted to a regular employee by the second-generation president. A young employee in his 20s was appointed as the new factory manager in my place. The person most bewildered by this personnel change was the new factory manager himself. Though quite capable, he was inevitably lacking in experience. Normally, seasoned employees support newly promoted supervisors. But due to this recent personnel change, there was no one in a position to provide that support. Amidst the chaos, I went directly to the second-generation president. "Thomas, I need to talk to you about the personnel changes. This will disrupt our workflow."
What are you talking about? That's exactly why these changes were made. What this company needs is not a cozy spot for aging employees, but a platform for young, energetic workers. It's important to prioritize ability in our work.
However, in the current situation, we can't perform our jobs properly, and it will inconvenience our clients. If the quality drops or deliveries are delayed, our company's reputation will suffer.
The company's old reputation? That's no longer needed. We're transforming into a new company and opening up new markets.
While it's crucial to acquire new clients, it takes time. Until then, we should value our current customers to keep the company afloat.
Yes. I understand. You just want to return to a high-ranking position, don't you? Listening to an old geezer like you is pointless.
No matter how sincerely I tried to explain, the second-generation president wouldn't listen. Even when I requested to train the younger employees, he dismissed the need. Finally, the second-generation president looked at me with disdain.
You old folks are the reason for the company's declining performance. We can't trust you with the company anymore.
I was then kicked out of the president's office. Afterward, the continuous mistakes in coordination between departments caused problems. Incorrect deliveries, wrong orders, and significantly deteriorated quality created chaos. I gathered information from the responsible managers and gave instructions one by one. First, contact the sales representative and inform them that the delivery will be delayed. While giving instructions via the internal phone, I also made an external call. I connected with a rival company, Brown Manufacturing. "Hello, this is John from Smith Manufacturing. Is the president available? It's been a while since I saw him." Brown Manufacturing is a competitor in the same area, doing similar work. However, rather than being just rivals, we often collaborated on large orders and helped each other during busy periods. "We have a tight deadline on an order." "Really? Thank you so much." Fortunately, the president of Smith Manufacturing, Michael, was willing to help since their production line was free. We continued our work while maintaining close contact with each department. Thanks to this effort, we managed to complete the production by the delivery date. Just as we were celebrating the successful delivery with my team, the manager informed me that the president wanted to see me. I hoped the second-generation president had finally understood. Perhaps the recent personnel changes would be reversed, I thought. But what awaited me were the harsh words of the second-generation president.
This recent trouble is your fault, John.
I was taken aback by his loud accusation as soon as I opened the door. The trouble was caused by a lack of coordination between departments due to a shortage of experienced personnel. It wasn't my fault.
I don't need excuses. The delay in delivery happened because of your poor instruction. Do you understand? We almost lost a major client. How do you plan to take responsibility?
I couldn't stay silent in the face of such unreasonable criticism. As I said, I requested time to train the younger employees. It was you who didn't allow a proper transition period.
Duh. It's always the same with old geezers. You can't do the job, but you're good at talking. I'm asking how you'll take responsibility for this.
Responsibility?
We don't need a 67-year-old geezer who can't take responsibility. John, you're fired.
The former president always said that as the president, he would ultimately take responsibility for the company. Standing there, I felt more emptiness than anger at the stark contrast between the father and son. This company was no longer the one I built with the former president. I had intended to devote myself to this company until the end, but if the second-generation president deemed me unnecessary, there was nothing I could do. I understand. If you won't listen to my side, I will resign.
Finally, I got rid of the old geezer.
As I left the president's office, I heard the second-generation president's laughter. I left the company I had served for so long, feeling only emptiness rather than sadness or anger. The next day, I went to express my gratitude to Michael. Even though I had left the company, I wanted to thank him for his cooperation in production.
Thank you for your courtesy. Please help us again if our company is in trouble.
Well, you see, I explained to Michael, who was smiling broadly, that I had resigned. After thinking for a while, Michael's face lit up.
So, you're now a free agent, John?
Yes, at this age, I'm looking for a new job.
Perfect. Would you like to work at our company?
He explained that his company was short-staffed because many experienced individuals had retired.
I trust you, John. We've known each other for a long time, even as rival companies. You know this industry inside out. Please come work with us.
Thank you for the kind offer. If you'll have an old guy like me, I'd be happy to work with you.
What are you talking about? Let's work together to revitalize this industry.
I had heard that job hunting for middle-aged people was tough, so Michael's offer was very welcome. Above all, I was pleased that he valued me enough to want me to work with him. And so, I decided to work for Michael's company. Although we had worked for different companies, we had often collaborated. He had helped me when there was trouble at my previous company, and now I owed him for taking me in at 67. Determined to repay his kindness, I decided to work sincerely for Michael, just as I had before. The nature of the work was almost the same as at my previous company, so I quickly adapted. Many employees already knew me, which helped me feel at home within a month. Before long, Michael himself appointed me as the site manager, which made the job even more fulfilling. While working hard, I noticed something strange. The clients I had from my previous company were now placing orders with my current company as new clients. I decided to ask one of the clients about it. To my surprise, I learned something shocking. Apparently, many experienced employees had left my previous company. With inexperienced young employees running the operations and no old hands to consult, the workplace was chaotic. The same coordination mistakes I had last handled became frequent, and now they couldn't make proper deliveries. Additionally, as older employees retired, the young employees took on all the remaining work, greatly increasing their responsibilities and workloads, turning the workplace into a toxic one. I've heard that even the younger employees are now looking to quit. Naturally, the company can no longer function properly, and even products without coordination issues have seen a significant drop in quality. As a result, they can't meet delivery deadlines and can only produce substandard items, leading to the loss of more and more clients. One of the clients I spoke to said they decided to switch their orders to Brown Manufacturing because they couldn't conduct proper business with my previous company anymore. Hearing how much my previous company's performance had declined pained me deeply. The company I helped build from its early days with the former president was in shambles. But this was all the result of the second-generation president's actions. Being in a competing company in the same industry, I naturally heard more news about my former company. I learned that the second-generation president was quite panicked by the sudden decline in performance. The company wasn't operating as he had expected, and he was lashing out at everyone. One day, I received a call on my cell phone. It was the second-generation president from my previous company. What could he possibly want now? I thought about ignoring it, but he kept calling persistently. My call log was filled with missed calls from him, making it impossible to work, so I reluctantly answered. "Hello, this is John."
You can come back now.
"Excuse me? What are you talking about?"
I said, you can come back to my company.
In a panicked and hurried voice, he explained the situation. His explanation matched exactly what I had heard from my former clients. With no experts around, the younger employees couldn't keep up with deliveries. Despite promises of higher pay, employees keep quitting. I felt a sense of resignation, wondering why he was saying this now. "You're the one who said you didn't need an old geezer like me, Thomas. What could you possibly want from me now?"
Just say yes. I'll reinstate you as the factory manager and keep your executive officer position. So come back immediately.
"I'm sorry, but I work for another company now."
That doesn't matter. It's only been a month. Do you really think a company you've worked at for just 1 month is more important than the one you worked for 40 years?
The second-generation president tried to convince me loudly, his agitation clear even over the phone. But I had already made up my mind. It was Michael who took me in after I was discarded by my former company. I can't betray his trust.
It's just been a month at that company.
The gratitude I feel isn't measured by time. Have you forgotten how you treated me?
I'm saying I'll forget all that if you come back now.
I've said it multiple times, I have no intention of returning to your company.
You're a stubborn old man.
As I silently thought, "You're the stubborn one," I heard loud laughter behind me. Michael had overheard my conversation with the second-generation president, and spoke to me with an amused look.
Indeed, it's important to adapt to the times and change your approach. But you also need the discernment to know what to discard and what's worth keeping.
Hearing Michael's voice, the second-generation president snapped at me in frustration.
You owe my dad. Normally, old geezers like you would be cut off, but I'll let you stay. If you miss this chance, you'll never come back.
As I said, I have no intention of returning. You can keep pushing forward with your young team.
That was the plan. But now our company is failing. The young ones lack the grit. They're complaining, saying they wish the older employees were still around. What went wrong? All the past work and client interactions should be documented. So why isn't the work going well? Why do we need the old employees now?
Finally, the second-generation president began to cry out in frustration. It seemed that the company's situation was even worse than the rumors I had heard. Yet, hearing him still refer to us skilled employees as old geezers filled me with a mix of dismay and disdain. Michael spoke up again. Gone was the laughter, replaced by a calm, serious tone meant to advise the young president.
By dismissing people just because they were old, you got rid of experts the company needed. Now you understand their value.
Enough.
The second-generation president hung up without waiting for my response. I stared at the phone, now emitting a dial tone. If I had been able to advise him sooner, perhaps things wouldn't have turned out this way. But seeing how he had dismissed me as an old geezer, I felt no sympathy for him, only pity. Thus, the company that I and the former president had built from the ground up soon went bankrupt. Despite over 40 years of hard work, it all ended in the blink of an eye. When the former president was around, I thought there was no better company, but a change in leadership made it all fall apart. When I started working, it was a time when many small businesses were going under. Even well-known large corporations were struggling. Afterward, there were periods like the Great Recession, which were tough for businesses. Watching so many companies close, I had grown, but experiencing my own company's demise was incredibly lonely. Later, I heard from colleagues who stayed until the end. It turned out the second-generation president despised the old ways and traditions of the domestic manufacturing industry. Before becoming president, he had repeatedly consulted his father, the former president, who always dismissed his concerns. So, when he became president, he was determined to bring in new ways and restart the company as a globally competitive manufacturing firm. He wanted to develop employees who could fight for the next 30 years and thus focused on younger employees. Despite his resolve, the company went bankrupt, but I still hope he perseveres. He's young and has many chances to try again. After all, the former president and I started that company with just the two of us. Meanwhile, I continue to find fulfillment working under Michael. Michael's favorite phrase is, old lessons, new insights, learning from the past to discover new knowledge. Revisiting and rethinking past lessons and old things to retain the good parts while continuously seeking new technologies and knowledge. Sometimes, Michael's ways seemed unconventional to me. However, his constant pursuit of the new kept the company from stagnating, which I admired. In my previous company, we focused on making industrial machinery parts, but now the electronics industry is booming. Seeing this, Michael ventured into the field of electronic components for electrical equipment. It was a business my previous company never dealt with, but I'm learning and visiting new clients. Even at my age, the excitement of new challenges keeps me going every day. Although I am past retirement age, Michael has asked me to help train the younger generation. I don't mind working with a new president on one more job. With this thought, I head to work today, exchanging smiles with my new